Hello everyone, welcome to Shrinking Man UK. I'm Leo, I'm 51 years old, I'm 5 foot 3 inches tall. I had Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery by Mr. Alamdani at the Whittington Hospital in London on June the 6th, 2017, thanks to the wonderful and precious National Health Service. So as of today, I'm about 7.5 months post-surgery from my gastric bypass. And as with all of the vlogs, I'll start with my measurements. Which haven't really changed since the last vlog almost 2 months ago, because I've pretty much stabilised at the moment, and the last kind of 15% of my excess body weight is probably going to be quite a slow process to get to 100%. Anyway, this is where I am at the moment. My neck is at 15 inches, which is down 3 inches. My chest is 38 inches, which is down 8 inches. My stomach is 37 inches, which is down 13 inches. My hips are 30 inches, which is down 15 inches. And the circumference of a thigh is 18 inches, which is down 5 inches. So my current weight is 11 stone and 1 pound. That's 4 stone and 4 pounds lost in total. And my BMI is 26.6, which is down from my original BMI of 38.1. And all those measurements are taken from the beginning of this weight loss surgery, which I count as my first meeting with the surgeons, which was just coming up for a year ago, last February, mid-February 2017. I'm speaking to you now, it's January 22nd, 2018. So my target weight, which is the weight that will give me a healthy BMI, is 10 stone and 5 pounds. And so I have 10 pounds to go, or 4.5 kilos to go, to reach that target. And so far I have lost 85.7% of my excess body weight. So when I spoke to you last time, I was just about to have an appointment with the bariatric dietitians, which I had. I'm actually about to have a follow-up appointment tomorrow. But as of that appointment, all my bloods were normal, which is great news, obviously. And we were talking about the kind of what I was then calling a stall in my weight loss. Really now I think of it as a stabilisation with just a little bit more to go. To put that into some perspective, which they did for me, as I said at the beginning, I've lost nearly 86% of my excess body weight. The expectation with this surgery was that I would lose about 80 to 85% maximum, which I've already done. In fact, it's slightly over that. And they expect that I will actually lose 100% of my excess body weight because of the progress that I've made. The other thing that put it into perspective is that their expectation of somebody losing 85% excess body weight is that it would take 18 months to do that. That's the average. And it took me 4 months. So I have done really well, and it's changed my perspective on thinking about what I was calling a weight loss stall, that I'm stuck at this weight and I can't seem to shift it. What it really means is this is a stable weight for me, and that last little bit, which I don't think is going to be very difficult to shift, is going to require some extra effort. So a little bit more control of my diet, and most of all I think increased exercise, which I'll come to a little bit later. And the issue I had with the hypos that I was talking about last time was actually what we call dumping syndrome. If you don't know what that is, there's plenty of information online, and I'll put a link in the description to an article on dumping syndrome. But basically it's when the gut comes across food that it can no longer process properly, sugar and fats mostly, makes you feel really ill, and with symptoms very similar to a hypo. And that's because it is you're getting a hit of insulin, which you're not used to getting, and makes you feel very similar to a hypo. So the solution for that was for me to start introducing some carb-based snacks in between meals to sort that out, which I have done, and that has sorted it out. I've only had 1 or 2 episodes like that since, and they've been fairly mild. Medications, 2 medications have now been stopped or are being stopped. One is Ursafol, which is one of the supplements that I was put on post-surgery. You stay on that for 6 months, so that's gone. I've finished with that. The other one is lansoprazole, which is a medication you may be familiar with, to help with reflux and acid indigestion in the stomach. I've been actually on that pre-surgery for 2 or 3 years, and when I did stop that when I was supposed to, I was quite ill, and basically very nauseous and a lot of really bad indigestion. So I've carried on with that, and I've got an appointment with my GP next week or the week after to talk about how to step that down, and for that not to, obviously a sudden stop was no good, and I probably need to be weaned off of that a little more slowly. So I'm going to manage that with my GP. The other thing that's happened since I last spoke to you was that I've done a sleep study for my obstructive sleep apnea, and I've had the follow-up appointment to go through the results of that, and they were really good. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea in 2005. I'd probably already had it a good 20 years by then, without knowing about it, which is not uncommon. And I was prescribed CPAP machine, which I'd worn for whatever it is, 13 years or so that I've been using that, and sleeping very well with it. But as I've said before, and I've shown clips of me using it before, here's a little reminder of that, it's cumbersome and it's an inhibitor for a comfortable night's sleep, really, although I got used to it. I haven't used CPAP for about 4 months now. I stopped using it even before the sleep study because I could tell from my sleep and from reports from my wife that I was no longer snoring or having apneas. So that was kind of borne out by the results of the sleep study, although the night that I did the sleep study I had a bit of a cold, so I had some congestion. But what it showed was that at diagnosis I had severe sleep apnea, and that was that I had on average 65 apneas per hour, so that's a little over 1 per minute. And that's not now gone down to about 20, and they're minor. So although there is still sleep apnea going on, it's now classed as mild, where it was classed as severe. On the day that I went for the results, that I was a bit miserable about that, because I think my expectation was that it was completely gone, and I still have it, but it's mild. Two good things: I've been discharged from the CPAP department of the hospital because I no longer require CPAP. My level of apnea doesn't require that, and I've got another appointment to go back to see them to look at having what's it called, a mandibular advancement splint fitting. It's basically something that you wear in your mouth that pushes your jaw forward, which is supposed to help with that low level snoring and apnea that it seems like I might still have. I may not need it, but I'm going to go and talk about it anyway. And the other thing that the consultant told me was that my apnea now is no longer weight related at all, it's age related. And again, it's a case of kind of adjusting my expectations and looking at things from a slightly different perspective. Very positive news. And back to exercise. I have been walking throughout post-surgery, something I've always enjoyed and especially enjoyed since I've lost weight, and it's become much easier to walk for longer distances and for a longer time. I've added running to that now. So you may well have heard of the Couch to 5K programme, which has been promoted by the National Health Service here as a way to start running, and it's basically interval training. You can download an app. There are many. The one I'm using I shall link in the description below, and basically you start on the first day of going out for half an hour, mostly walking with short runs, and then gradually the runs become longer and the walking becomes shorter, and you end up after 9 weeks of the programme running 5 kilometres, which is about 3 miles or something. I'll put the exact measurement in a subtitle. So I'm halfway through that now, and the runs are starting to, the longest run at the moment is a little over 5 minutes, which doesn't sound much, but that's from nothing, and that's from never having run at all in my life. It's a brilliant programme, and I'm really, really enjoying it. Again, enjoying running is not something I ever thought that I would do. I will report back when I get to my 5K, and maybe we'll put in a bit of footage of running in a future vlog. We'll see, but that's going really well. I absolutely recommend it very, very highly if it's something that you want to do. Since we last spoke, we've had Christmas, because it's now the new year, and I suppose the main feature of that is that Christmas is largely food-based, and I was wondering what that would be like to not eat very much while everybody else was eating a lot. And the answer is it was absolutely fine, because I didn't really have any envy. I suppose if I did, it was around alcohol, because I don't drink. I probably won't drink again. It's certainly not recommended for a year or two after surgery at all, and then very carefully, because post-surgery you don't process alcohol in the same way. But it was fine. I ate what everybody else was eating pretty much, apart from the puddings, and I just didn't eat very much. What I have found by this stage is that I can actually eat most things, even sweet things, as long as I'm very careful with the amounts. Fatty foods and sugary foods I can have a little bit of. I can overdo it, and that doesn't take much, and I am very ill when that happens, and I'm out of action for a couple of hours with nausea and sweats and feeling faint. But it was fine, and socially it was just the same, sitting around the table with everybody. I just didn't eat very much. I didn't even know if anybody particularly noticed. I haven't asked them. The other thing that was important around Christmas is I had this photo that I took previous Christmas at my parents' house, sitting on a sofa, and that was always in my mind, my kind of comparison before photo, because I was looking pretty big in that one, and I had set myself the goal of taking the same photograph in the same position on Christmas Day this year, which I did do, and this is what it looked like. And the other thing that I promised myself that I would do is that I would share that on social media, particularly in the bariatric forums that I belong to on Facebook, and the response was absolutely amazing. I think across the groups I got something like, the last time I looked, 1,700 likes and loves. Really positive reaction. It meant a lot, and some amazing comments. Although I could see the difference when you hear about it from other people, particularly people you don't know. I don't know why that means more, but it does. The other thing I was going to talk about was clothes. So because my weight has kind of stabilised now, my size has stabilised, and although I will lose a bit more, I want to lose another 10 pounds, that's not going to make a dramatic change to my shape and my measurements. So I'm now a 30 hips, waist, so that's the size of my trousers now. I don't know, that maybe that'll go to 28. I can't imagine it going any lower. And my top size generally, if I'm just not buying exact size things, is small, which is what I'm wearing today. This is a small top and a 30 skinny jeans. What that means is I'm not going through clothes every few weeks, so I can probably start shopping at actual clothes shops again, rather than supermarkets, which is where I had been buying my clothes, because I was going through them so quickly it wasn't worth spending any money on. So I'm going to start doing that. I did buy one outfit, a nice shirt, a nice pair of trousers, because we were going to a wedding over Christmas. We ended up not going because Rachel, my wife, was too ill, but I have got a nice shirt and trousers out of it, which I have yet to wear. But it was nice going shopping in a proper clothes shop for clothes in a size that I wasn't ashamed of. And the reason we didn't go to that wedding is Rachel has been suffering from gallstones for about a year now, and she had a flare-up of that gallstone attack, and she was really ill. We actually had to call an ambulance twice in a week to go to accident and emergency. She was in awful pain. The upside of that is that the surgery she's going to need to remove her gallbladder has now been brought forward, and she's got a date for that, which is in just over a month's time. In the meantime, that means that her diet has been very restricted, not allowed to have big meals, got to be not really allowed to have alcohol or fatty foods. The difference is, because of me being post-surgery and not eating much and not drinking at all, is that I've been able to support her in her restriction by matching them myself, essentially. And I think that would have been a lot harder while pre-surgery, while I was eating whatever it was I wanted to eat. I would have had to, in order to be supportive, have similar restrictions myself, and that's obviously much easier post-surgery than it would have been before. Another medical thing is that I've had a lot of pain in my left shoulder, particularly when I lie on it. I don't know exactly what that's about. I've been to the GP and I've got a referral for some physio, and it has got a lot better in the last few weeks. But I think it's just one of those things that we experience because my body has changed so much in shape and weight and makeup. It's having some effect on what happens when I lie on my side and lie on my arm. So that's clearing up by itself, but I will have some physio to deal with that. Again, not exactly sure what that's about, but it's going to be something to do with the huge changes that I've experienced. Finally, the other little thing that's happened is that I've talked about before about losing weight from places you wouldn't necessarily expect, like my feet. A lot of my shoes are too wide, or my bum's got bony and I have to have extra kind of cushions to sit on for long periods of time. And the other thing was on my fingers, and to the point where my rings are way too big now. So I am going to get them properly resized. But in the meantime, I found these fantastic ring resizers, which I'll show you here, to fit on the back of my rings that just make them a lot smaller, which means that I can wear them without them falling off. I'm not wearing them at the moment in this shot because I've taken them off to take that close-up shot that you've just seen. But again, just a nice sign of the changes that have happened. And now that, again, as I say, my weight has stabilised, I will get them properly resized at the jeweller's sometime this year. Anyway, I think that's enough for now. I'll be back to tell you more about my progress and maybe follow up on the bariatric dietitian appointment I have this week. But thanks ever so much for staying with me. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already, and do share this video even if you want to do that. That would really help me out with the channel, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.